Have you ever stopped to consider that everything you believe about success and money could be a lie? Imagine discovering, after 50 years, that the advice you followed meticulously was precisely what kept you trapped. And what's worse, you might still think it's too late to change. I'm going to prove to you that this very thought is killing you right now. Now answer honestly, how many times have you thought, it's too late for me? What if I told you that's nothing more than a paradigm, a mental pattern stealing your best years? Today, we're breaking that pattern. I'll not only show you why you've lived a limited life until now, but I'll teach you how to turn the game around. Do you truly believe you're in control of your life, that the decisions you've made up to this point were conscious choices? I'll tell you a truth that might hurt. Most of your life has been controlled by an invisible enemy. An enemy that doesn't speak, doesn't shout, doesn't ask permission, but dictates every step you take. That enemy is called a paradigm. What is a paradigm? It's a set of deeply ingrained beliefs and habits in your subconscious mind. It was installed when you didn't have the slightest chance to choose. When you were a child, your mind was open, absorbing everything like a sponge. Everything you heard, money doesn't grow on trees, poor people stay poor, work hard for a little security, went straight into your subconscious, unfiltered, unquestioned, and that started controlling you. Now tell me honestly, how many times have you tried to change your life and it seemed impossible? How many times did you start something new only to return to the same patterns shortly after? This isn't a lack of willpower. It's the paradigm pulling you back. It's like autopilot keeping your life at the same level year after year. If you're 50, 60 or older, you might think this is definitive, that it's always been this way, it always will be. But let me ask you this. Do you really believe you were born to live a limited life? To live counting pennies? To spend the best years of your life worrying about bills? If you believe that, guess who's talking inside your head? It's not you. It's the paradigm. Want to see how it works? Think about the idea of dramatically increasing your income. For example, turning your annual income into a monthly income. What comes to mind? You might think, that's impossible. That's not for me. You know why? Because the paradigm dictates the logic you accept. It controls your perception, controls how you use your time, controls the amount of money you believe you can earn. It's like an invisible filter that distorts reality so everything stays the same. And what's even more impressive, this paradigm wasn't born with you. It was implanted by the conversations you heard as a child, by your family's struggles, by societal beliefs. If your family always lived frugally, saying life is hard, you probably grew up believing it. And if no one taught you to question it, that program has been running to this day without you even realizing it. Now tell me, how many opportunities have you missed because the paradigm said it was risky? How many times have you avoided investing, starting a business, taking a chance, because that inner voice said, this isn't for you? That's right. It wasn't you talking. It was the program. And if you continue letting it call the shots, nothing changes. It doesn't matter how many courses you take, how many books you read. You might even consciously believe you can change. But in the subconscious, where decisions truly happen, the paradigm is giving the orders. And I know this sounds brutal, but this is the reality for most people who reach 50, believing their life is already set. That's not true. It never was true. But until you take control of this program, nothing changes. The paradigm will continue to run your life and keep you exactly where you are. Now tell me honestly, do you want to spend the rest of your life obeying a program you didn't even choose? Do you want to continue repeating the same routine, the same fears, the same limitations until your last day? Or are you willing to break this cycle and discover that there's still time, plenty of time, to live something extraordinary? Because I'm going to tell you something that could change everything. The paradigm only has power because you've never truly challenged it. When you start questioning, repeatedly replacing old ideas with new ones, it begins to lose its strength. I've seen 70-year-olds breaking paradigms and creating multi-million-dollar businesses. I've seen people who spent decades believing there was no way out, and when they understood this, they turned their lives around in a few months. But it starts with you. It starts when you decide to stop being a hostage to this programming. Because as long as you don't do that, you'll continue believing you work to earn money, when in fact work has never been and never will be the source of your wealth. Work is for satisfaction. Money comes from something else. And that's what I'm going to show you, step by step from now on. Now answer me. Are you ready to challenge 50 years of programming? Or will you let this invisible enemy control the next 20, 30 years of your life? Because the choice, for the first time, is yours. When you say you're worried, anxious, or tired, do you know what that really means? It means you're in a negative vibration. This isn't just an expression, it's a scientific fact. Everything in the universe is energy, including you. Your body is a mass of energy vibrating at a very high speed, and every thought you have alters that frequency. Now let me ask you something. If everything is energy, and energy attracts what is similar, what do you think happens when you spend years vibrating in worry, fear, and scarcity? That's right. You attract more of the same. And do you know what the problem is? Most people have no idea this is happening. Ask someone how they are, and they'll say, "I'm fine," or "I'm not feeling great today." But they'll never say, "I'm aware that I'm emotionally involved with a negative idea, and that's why I've entered a low vibration." Even so, that's exactly what happens. Feelings are the expression of your vibration, and the vibration in turn determines what you attract. Now think about this. How many times have you caught yourself worrying about the future, afraid of running out of money, angry because something didn't go as expected? And how many times did that solve anything? Never. But even so, you've been repeating this for years. And do you know what's worse? This is the programming of your paradigm. It taught you that worrying is normal, that complaining is even healthy. But the truth is, every time you do that, you're reinforcing a pattern that keeps you trapped. I know that at 50 or older, many people think, "I don't have the same energy I used to. I can't change." And that's another lie of the paradigm. Energy doesn't wear out. You don't lose energy with age, you lose enthusiasm because you're trapped in thoughts that put you in a low vibration. If you wake up every day thinking about bills, problems, everything that could go wrong, how do you expect to have an abundant life? It's impossible. Now tell me, have you noticed how people who constantly complain never improve their lives? They're trapped in the same frequency, reinforcing every day what they don't want, and the universe responds by bringing them more reasons to complain. That's the law. The vibration you emit is the same vibration you receive. If you want prosperity, you must first vibrate prosperity. It's not waiting to see, it's feeling before having. And here's a truth that could change everything for you. Nobody teaches you this when you're young, and that's why you spent decades believing that feelings are just reactions to what happens. But they're not. Feelings are choices. You can decide right now to enter a better vibration. But you need to train your mind for that. I learned this the hard way. I used to react to everything. If someone treated me badly, I felt bad. If things didn't go as I wanted, I felt defeated. Until I understood that I didn't need to react, that I could choose to respond. Today, when someone says something negative to me, I think, that's her opinion, but it doesn't define who I am. I maintain the image I have of myself, not the image others try to impose on me. That's liberating. Now, let me ask you, how many times have you let other people's opinions ruin your day? How many sleepless nights have you lost over something you couldn't control? That makes no sense. And if you continue doing this, do you know what will happen? The next 10, 20 years of your life will be the same as the last 20. Because nothing changes until you change your vibration. And I know someone will think, but how do I change that? I'll tell you. It starts with a conscious decision. When you realize you're not feeling well, don't accept that as normal. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What thought is creating this feeling? And change the thought. At first, this seems difficult because you've spent years reacting automatically. But with practice, you take control. I want you to understand this. You're not a victim of circumstances, you're a victim of your vibration. And your vibration is controlled by your thoughts and feelings. If you change that, everything changes. Everything. Now imagine waking up every day and, instead of thinking about what could go wrong, starting to feel gratitude for what you already have and what's coming. Not because it's already here, but because you believe it will arrive. That's positive vibration. This aligns you with the frequency of what you desire. And when you're on that frequency, opportunities begin to appear. Ideas come to you. The right people cross your path. It's not magic, it's law. So I ask you, do you want to continue vibrating with worry, fear, and scarcity, attracting more of it into your life? Or do you want to start now, vibrating in abundance, prosperity, and joy, even before you see the change? Because the change only comes afterward. First you feel it, then you see it. That's the order, and I'll tell you more. This is what separates people who constantly complain from those who thrive. The choice is yours. Today, now. Because you have the power to decide what vibration you'll live the rest of your life in. And if you make that choice now, the coming years could be the best you've ever lived. When you were born, you had no opinions, no beliefs, no judgments. You were a blank page ready to be filled. And everything, absolutely everything you heard and saw in your early years went straight into your subconscious, without filters, without questioning. And that's precisely where the biggest trap of your life begins, the silent blow of the paradigm. Stop and think. You speak the language you speak because you grew up hearing that language. You like the foods you like because you grew up in an environment where those foods were common. Now tell me, why do you believe what you believe about money, work, and success? For the same reasons. Because you grew up hearing those ideas. If you were raised in a home where they always said life is hard, money doesn't bring happiness, those born poor will die poor, guess what? Those phrases became absolute truths in your subconscious. And that's what controls you to this day. Want to see how this works? Think of all the times you felt excited about a new idea, maybe starting a business, investing in something different, changing careers. For a moment, you were filled with enthusiasm, but suddenly, that voice deep down came, "This isn't for you, this is too risky, better to stick to what's safe." Have you heard that voice? Of course you have. That voice isn't rational, it's automatic. It's the paradigm defending itself. It doesn't want to lose control. It was programmed to keep everything the same, and the worst part is, throughout your life, you've reinforced this without realizing it. Every time you gave in to fear, every time you chose the safe instead of the best, you strengthened that programming until you reach a point where it seems impossible to change. And now, after 50 years, many people believe it's too late. I tell you, that's another lie of the paradigm. It uses age as an excuse to stay in command. But the truth is, as long as you're alive, you can change. I've seen this happen with people much older than you. Want a simple example of how this blow works in everyday life? How many times have you thought about investing in something and didn't because you were afraid of losing? How many times have you avoided asking for a raise or seeking a better opportunity because you thought you weren't capable? This has nothing to do with intelligence or talent. It has to do with what's programmed inside you, and that's precisely why so many people reach 50 and realize they've spent their whole lives running in circles, working hard, paying bills, dreaming of a freedom that never came, because they never stopped to question this programming. Now I ask you, if your life up to now has been the result of what's in your subconscious, What do you think will happen if you continue with the same program for the next 20 or 30 years? Will it be different? It won't, but there's a way out, and it starts with a simple step: questioning. The paradigm only has power because you've never truly challenged it. When you start putting new ideas in place of the old ones, it starts to lose strength. But it's not enough to think once. Repetition is necessary. You need to flood your mind with the new idea until it becomes dominant. That's why I want to propose a simple but powerful challenge. For the next 7 days, every time you hear that voice saying, "This isn't for you," or "You can't," I want you to respond aloud, "That's just a paradigm. I can and I will prove it." It may seem silly, but it's not. Every time you do this, you begin to weaken the old programming and create a new one. Now think about this. If you don't change, nothing changes. No matter how many books you read, how many courses you take, the paradigm will find a way to pull you back to the same place. But if you decide today, now, to take control, the coming years can be the most incredible of your life. Because it's not age that limits you, it's not the lack of opportunities. It's this silent programming you've carried since childhood. And you can change that. The question is, will you continue to live a prisoner of this invisible blow, or will you start tearing down these barriers right now? I know exactly what it's like to look at life and feel there's no way out. I've been there. There was a time when I was completely lost. I had no formal education, no special skills, no plan for the future. I worked in the fire department, and to be honest, I felt trapped. Trapped by a low salary, trapped by debts I didn't see how to pay, trapped in a meaningless routine. I thought, is this it? Is this what I was born for? To work hard, count pennies, and die without ever truly living? Maybe you've asked yourself that same question, and I'll tell you something. When you're in that situation, you start to believe you have no choice. I thought some people were born to succeed, and others like me weren't. Until one day, something happened that changed everything. A friend gave me a book, Think and Grow Rich. I could have read that book once and put it on the shelf like most people do, but I didn't. I read that book every day. I devoured every word, and every time I read it, something inside me said, "There's a way, and I'm going to find it." But I knew that reading alone wouldn't be enough. So I did something most people would be ashamed to do. I bought a portable record player, one of those old ones, and carried it with me everywhere. And I listened to the same recording every day, for hours, without stopping. Do you know what it's like to hear the same message hundreds, thousands of times? I did it because I needed to change my paradigm. I didn't understand everything at the time, but I felt that if I repeated those ideas enough times, something inside me would change. People called me crazy. They said, "Have you lost your mind listening to this every day? This isn't going to change anything." But I knew that if I continued living the way I was, my life would never change. So I continued. For months, for years. And do you know what happened? My income started to grow. Slowly at first, then suddenly. In a short time, I went from a life without prospects to earning more than $100,000 a year. That was in the 60s. To give you an idea, that would be like earning more than $1 million a year today, and I had no degree, no business experience, no extraordinary talent. I had one thing: the decision to change my paradigm no matter the cost. And that changed everything, because I understood that it wasn't hard work that was going to get me out of that hole. It wasn't working longer hours. It wasn't killing myself to save every penny. It was changing the way I thought. It was changing the way I saw myself. It was taking control of my mind, because if I didn't do that, nothing in my world would change. Now I ask you, how many times have you looked at your life and thought there was no way out? How many times have you believed it was too late to change? I believed that too, and I was wrong, because it's not age that stops you. It's not the lack of opportunities, it's your programming. And if I could change that after years of believing I had nothing to offer, why couldn't you? I want you to understand something. I'm no different from you. I'm not smarter. I wasn't born lucky. I didn't have privileges. I just decided I wasn't going to live the way I was living anymore. I decided I was going to change my mind before trying to change anything outside of me, and that decision was the key. So, if you're listening to this and feel you're trapped, that there's no way out, I want you to remember one thing. This is an illusion created by your paradigm. It's just a program running in your mind saying you can't, that it's too late, that there's no way. But you don't have to believe it anymore. Because there is a way. And it begins when you decide to change what's inside you. That decision can transform not only the coming years, but the entire story of your life. And believe me, the coming years can be the best you've ever lived. But that depends on you. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to change this paradigm? Because I can guarantee you, if you do, everything will change. There's one thing the wealthiest people in the world know but never taught you. It has nothing to do with working more, nothing to do with studying until you're exhausted, nothing to do with luck. It has to do with mental repetition. I'll tell you something you might find strange at first. Wealth doesn't come from physical effort, it comes from mental programming. That's what differentiates those who have money from those who struggle their whole lives to pay bills. I know many people don't believe this, because we grew up hearing that to make money, you need to work hard, sweat, sacrifice yourself. But if that were true, whoever worked hardest would be the richest. And we know that's not the case. Bricklayers, cleaning ladies, drivers, they work incredibly hard, often more than any executive, yet they don't amass fortunes. Why? Because it's not physical labor that generates wealth. It's the paradigm. It's the programming. And those who understand this have changed their lives. People like Oprah Winfrey, for example, applied these principles, not because they were lucky, but because they understood that before you have something, you must be it. You must vibrate at the frequency of what you desire. Even great athletes have harnessed this power. I recall a conversation with Milt Campbell, a decathlon gold medalist at the Olympics. He told me, "Bob, for the first time, I understand how I achieved that. I never knew until now." And do you know why? Because, unknowingly, he was applying these principles. He visualized, believed, felt it before it happened. He reprogrammed his paradigm without even understanding what he was doing. Now, I want you to understand something fundamental. You don't change a paradigm by simply reading a book once. You don't change a paradigm by watching a video and saying, "That makes sense." You change a paradigm through repetition. Constant repetition until the new idea replaces the old. And I'll give you an exercise that can transform your life if you take it seriously. For 90 days, every day, multiple times a day, I want you to repeat this phrase. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in ever-increasing quantities through multiple sources continuously. Repeat it when you wake up. Repeat it before you sleep. Repeat it in the car, in the shower, while walking. Write it on cards and leave them where you can see them. This may seem too simple to be true, but that's precisely what will begin to reprogram your mind. Why? Because the subconscious doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. It accepts everything you repeat with emotion. And when this idea is accepted in your subconscious, your vibration changes. And when your vibration changes, everything changes. It's the law. What you attract depends on the frequency you emit. I did this. I lived this. I carried a portable record player with me and listened to the same messages hundreds of times. I read the same book every day. People called me crazy. But do you know what happened? I changed. And when I changed, my life changed. Not because the world changed, but because I changed the way I thought. So tell me, are you willing to do this? Because if you do, If you commit to repeating this phrase until it becomes a part of you, I guarantee you that your relationship with money will never be the same. But it's no use doing it once or twice. It's no use doing it for a week and giving up. It's repetition, it's discipline, it's persistence, because you're replacing a program that's been installed for decades. But when you do this, you'll discover something incredible, that wealth has always been within your reach. You just needed to change the way you think, and this can start right now with a simple decision. Repeat until you believe. And when you believe, everything around you will start to change. I need to tell you something that may not be easy to hear, but it's necessary. If you don't change now, nothing will change. You can spend the next several years reading books, watching lectures, taking courses, but if you don't break the paradigm that's inside you, everything will remain the same. You will repeat the same routines, face the same problems, feel the same frustrations, and when you realize it, another 10 years will have passed. And this is not an exaggeration. That's exactly how the lives of most people happen. They believe they are in control, but who's really in charge is a silent program, running 24 hours a day, called the paradigm. Now answer me. Do you want to reach the end of your life with the feeling that you could have done more, that you could have lived more? Or do you want, in fact, to start living the life you've always desired? Because there's a very clear line that separates those who achieve from those who only dream, the ability to change. Not to change the world, not to change others, but to change yourself. And that begins in the mind. At 50 years old or more, many people believe it's too late. I hear this all the time. Oh, Bob, it's too late for me. That phase has passed. And I tell you, that's one of the biggest lies you've ever believed. There's no such thing as being too late. As long as you're breathing, there's time to turn the game around. I've seen 70-year-olds completely change their lives. People who started from scratch and created successful businesses, achieved financial freedom, realized dreams they'd carried for decades, all because they decided to change their paradigm. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is so urgent. Because every day you let pass is one more day reinforcing the old programming. And the more you repeat the pattern, the stronger it becomes. It's like a road. The more you travel it, the more worn it becomes. And if you do nothing, that road will be the only one you'll know until the end. But you can build a new one, not all at once, but step by step, idea by idea. And I'll give you a challenge that can be the beginning of this change. For 90 days, every day, I want you to write a simple yet powerful sentence. I am so happy and grateful now that my life is transforming for the better. Write it in the morning, write it at night, and feel gratitude as you write. Because this will begin to create a new path in your mind. It will begin to replace old ideas with new ones. And I want you to do something else. Every time that inner voice says, "It's too late," I want you to respond, "That's just a paradigm. I'm in charge here." It may seem too simple, but repetition is the key. That's how you'll rebuild your mind. Now let me ask you, how many things have you stopped doing because you believed it was too late? How many dreams have you shelved because you thought you were too old to realize them? That's not true. That's never been true. But if you don't challenge that thought now, it will steal the best years of your life. The choice is yours, and it needs to be made now. Because every passing minute, you are either strengthening or destroying the paradigm that holds you captive. And if you decide today, at this very moment, to take control, you can transform the coming years into the best of your life. Not because the world will change, but because you will change. The question is, are you willing to pay the price? Because I can guarantee you, it's much less than the price of living the rest of your life trapped in a program you didn't choose. And when you take that step, you'll realize that everything that seemed impossible will begin to happen. But for that, you need to start now, today. No excuses, because the power is in your hands and always has been. The most important point I want you to take away from here is simple. What's controlling your life today isn't circumstances, nor age, nor lack of opportunity. It's your paradigm. If you change that, everything changes. Nothing is more powerful than taking control of your own mind. And the best part is that this can start now, with a decision. Stay with me, because in the next video, you will climb another step in your evolution. You will become 1% better than you are now, and that's all you need to completely transform your life. Thank you very much for being here with me, and I'll see you in the next video.